Welcome back to the Explainer. So I want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever tried to build a magnificent, towering skyscraper without using a single piece of steel or concrete? Well, it'd be absolutely impossible, right? Trying to speak or write in English without nouns is exactly the same thing. Nouns are literally the raw materials of our language. Without them, our ideas have no structure, our sentences don't have subjects, and our communication just completely collapses. So today, we're putting on our hard hats and we are going to master these foundational building blocks to give you total control over your English syntax. Okay, let's dive right into this. At its absolute core, a noun is simply a naming word. Whether it's a person, a place, a physical thing, some kind of invisible idea, a quality, or an action, if you can name it, you bet it's a noun. These words form the vital subjects and objects of our sentences. You know, they're the who and the what that all our verbs and adjectives are constantly reacting to. They essentially act as the raw materials for absolutely everything we communicate. Now, to really master these materials, especially if you're gearing up for competitive exams or tackling Module 2, we need a solid roadmap. Here is exactly how we're going to build our knowledge up today. First, we'll categorize the different noun types. Second, we'll look at counting and plural rules. Third, we'll establish ownership with possessive nouns. After that, we'll cover noun gender, and finally, we'll wrap up with noun cases. We're going to systematically move from raw materials to a fully functioning sentence blueprint. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the foundation, noun types. Now, what's really interesting about this is that a single building block can often belong to multiple categories at the exact same time. Let's start with the foundational contrast, general terms versus official names. A common noun is just your everyday, unspecific word, like diplomat, country, or treaty. But the very second we get specific, we use proper nouns. So instead of just any diplomat, it's Tariq. Instead of a country, it's Pakistan. Instead of a city, it's Lahore. And the golden, absolutely unbreakable rule here, proper nouns are always capitalized, no matter where they're hiding in a sentence. Moving on, we have to separate the physical from the invisible. Think about this. You can reach out and touch a cold glass window, or feel heavy rain pounding against it, right? You can see it, hear it, touch it. Those are concrete nouns. But can you physically touch justice? Can you pack courage or dedication up in a little box? No way. Those are abstract nouns. They are ideas, concepts, and emotions that are incredibly powerful, but completely intangible to our five senses. Then we have the nouns that group things together, and the nouns that tell us what things are actually made of. Collective nouns essentially measure our groups as a single entity. Think of a committee making a decision, a crowd cheering, or a flock of birds flying by. Material nouns, on the flip side, give us our physical building materials. We're talking steel, concrete, gold, and water. And hey, here's a quick pro tip for your exams. Material nouns are raw substances, meaning they are rarely, if ever, pluralized. Our final noun type is the compound noun. This is where we literally take two separate words, smash them together, and create an entirely new meaning. It's like a linguistic merger. There are three distinct structural styles you really need to memorize here. First, spaced or open compounds. These leave a gap, like ice cream or human rights. Then we have hyphenated compounds, which use a little bridge, like mother-in-law. And finally, solid or closed compounds, which merge completely into one word, like toothbrush or footprint. Okay, moving right along to Section 2, counting and plural rules. So we've got our materials, but now we enter the inventory phase of our construction site. Knowing exactly how to count your materials and, just as importantly, knowing which ones simply cannot be counted is an absolute make or break skill for exam success. Countable nouns are pretty easy. 1 book, 2 books. Simple, right? But uncountable nouns are masses or concepts that just can't be individually counted. You wouldn't say 1 furniture or 2 furnitures. Now listen closely, because here is a massive trap you'll see on competitive exams. Take the word information. We can absolutely say a lot of information, but we never, ever, under any circumstances, say informations. It is always uncountable. When we do actually count our nouns, we have a standard baseline rule for multiplying them. Most of the time, you just slap an S on the end. The word state becomes states. Easy enough. But if your noun ends in an S, SH, CH, X, or Z, like the word tax, for example, you have to add ES to make it taxes. That's your baseline. But as we all know, English absolutely loves to break its own rules. Let's move to the next step and see how this builds into something a bit more complex, the irregular plurals. Honestly, these are your secret weapons for acing grammar tests. Sometimes the inside vowels just change entirely, like man to men or foot to feet. Other times the word stubbornly refuses to change at all, like sheep or aircraft. 1 sheep, 10 sheep, it's all the same. But the real test favorites are the Latin and Greek endings. Notice how a word like crisis becomes crises with an E. Or even better, a word like phenomenon magically drops the on ending and becomes phenomena. You will definitely want to memorize these transformations. All right, shifting gears to Section 3, showing ownership with possessive nouns. If nouns are our building blocks, this is where we discuss the property rights on our construction site. Possessives show how one noun claims ownership over another word or concept. Creating them is really as simple as following a quick 1, 2, 3 checklist. Step 1. If it's a singular noun, just add an apostrophe S, the diplomat's passport. Step 2. If it's a plural noun that already ends in an S, like nations, don't add another S. Just drop the apostrophe at the very end, the nation's agreement. Step 3. If it's a plural noun that does not end in S, like people or children, you just treat it like a singular and add apostrophe S, the people's mandate. And this brilliantly illustrates just how much power that little punctuation mark holds. Let's look at joint versus separate possession. If I say Ollie and Tariq's car, with the apostrophe only on Tariq, that means they pooled their money and they share a single car together. But if I say Ollie's and Tariq's cars, with an apostrophe on both names, that means they each possess their own separate vehicles. So literally, one tiny, single apostrophe completely alters the physical reality of who owns what. How wild is that? Okay, up next is Section 4, categorizing by noun gender. English grammar categorizes our nouns based on sex, or in a lot of cases, the complete lack of it. We have 4 distinct types here. Masculine and feminine are pretty straightforward, right? Father and king versus mother and queen. But it's those other 2 where students most often get tripped up. The common gender refers to roles that can be either male or female, so words like an ambassador, a citizen, a candidate, or a teacher. And then there's the neuter gender, which is reserved for inanimate objects and abstract concepts that have absolutely no biological sex at all, like a treaty, a wooden desk, or a philosophy. And finally, we arrive at the last blueprint phase, Section 5, sentence roles, also known as noun cases. So we know what our materials are, we know how to count them, and we know who owns them. Now we're looking at how these blocks actually function and relate to each other inside the walls of a sentence. A noun's case tells you its exact job. The nominative case, that's the boss, it's the subject actually doing the action. The senator debated. The objective case is on the receiving end. The government signed the treaty. We already mastered the possessive case, showing ownership, like the Republic's Constitution. And lastly, the vocative case is used when you are directly speaking to someone, to grab their attention, like saying, "Mr. Chairman, I yield the floor." Wow, okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground today, all the way from abstract ideas to Latin plurals and joint possessives. And I want to stress this, these rules aren't just dry grammar trivia. They are quite literally the steel and concrete of your communication. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. If nouns are the foundational building blocks of syntax, are your sentences built on solid ground, or are they waiting to collapse? I challenge you to take these exact tools, apply them to Master Module 2, ace your exams, and truly shape reality through precise, powerful language. Keep learning, keep building, and we'll catch you on the next explainer.